Hi, and welcome to this wrap-up. Today I'm gonna rank all the books I've recently read from worst to best, and I'm gonna talk about them. So grab a cup of tea or a snack and let's get into it. So these books I'm gonna discuss today I've all read in either April or the end of March. So they're all books I've read in the past month, and I'm gonna tier rank them from worst to best. I thought this would be a more fun idea than just listing all the books that I've read, and I'm excited to see which tier will get the most crowded. Okay, so the bottom tier is the DNF tier. So if you don't know, DNF stands for did not finish, and there's only one book this month which I did not finish, which is Beauty is a Wound. I tried reading this book for the Walter Book Club for Indonesia, but I just could not finish it. So this book is about the colonial past of Indonesia. Our main character is a prostitute who awakens from death, and this book has a great discussion of what beauty means. For example, our main character prays that her daughter will be born very ugly so she does not have to live the prostitute life that her mother lived. However, her daughter is born ugly and she experiences this ugliness as a punishment because she really feels alone and unwanted in the world. So this book got really great discussion about beauty and what that means, but this book also contains a lot of violence, a lot of cruelty, abuse, just terror. A lot of this violence is caused by the Dutch colonialists. They bring about a lot of sexual abuse, animal abuse, just a lot of cruelty in general. It would be interesting if the author included this to discuss it, but I felt like there was just a lot of trauma dumping and no discussion whatsoever. So I asked the people who are also reading this book, does it get any better and should I continue this? And most of people said that it gets only worse, and they found really no discussion from the author about these topics. And then I was reading some hard books at the same time, so it just was a little bit too much, and I decided that if it's just gonna be trauma dumping and really horrifying stories, then I am gonna have to DNF this book. I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna get back to it. I mean, the story is really gruesome. I would definitely recommend you check trigger warnings for this book if you want to read it. So this first book is going to go in the DNF tier. Now to continue, I also read a lot of books that I'm not going to rate. I read a lot of for uni. I had exams at the end of March. If you want to see which books I read, you can see them in my exam vlog. But I do not rate these books. All the books I read for uni are academic papers or textbooks. I do not follow a literature degree, so all of these books, I do not rate them. So I'm not going to put them in this tier list. So you may notice that there is no 1-star tier. This is because I did not have a 1-star book this month. I rarely rate books 1 star, so we're going to continue to the 2-star tier. So the first and only book that's in this tier is Komi Can Communicate by Tomohito Oda. This was my first manga actually, and I did enjoy reading a manga. You read it a different way, and I have all my reactions and thoughts on this book in a different video that's already up. I'm gonna link it for you so you can see all my thoughts that I had on reading my first manga. So I'm just gonna keep it short over here. I thought the concept and the story were really cute and at times really relatable, but I just did not like the sexualization of high schoolers and the fan service that was all over this book. So that's why I gave it a 2-star. So as I said in the video, I definitely want to read more manga. I did enjoy reading, you know, in a different way than you would normally read books, but this story was just not for me. So this is the book that's going to go in the 2-star tier. So again, I don't have any books this month that I read 3 stars, which is a good thing. So most of my books are higher rated than 3 stars, which makes me really happy. I found a lot of great books this month. So we're going to skip to the 4-star tier. Starting off with the 4-star tier, we have Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro. Oh my god, this book was heartbreaking. It was really good. That's why I rated it 4-star, but it was so sad. It was hard-hitting. The author was not afraid to say it as it is. She did not make anything better than what it actually is. I read Elena Knows for the Voyage Out book club. and it was really interesting to see other people's opinions of it. I saw that a lot of people rated it 5 stars, so that was really exciting. So in this book we follow Elena, and she knows that her daughter has been killed. The whole town rules it as a suicide, but she knows that her daughter did not commit suicide that day. She now has to find the person who killed her daughter. However, this is really hard for her because she suffers from Parkinson's disease, so her day is ruled by pills, and even with these pills she cannot really control her body. The author definitely does not make it sound any better than it is. She really tells the truth about how Parkinson's disease is really awful and it affects the body in a really brutal way. Her search for her daughter's killer becomes way harder because of this disease. I will not spoil the rest of this book for you. You should read it yourself, but it's mainly about women who do not have control over their own bodies in some sort of way. It's also a lot about motherhood. I thought this was a brilliant book. I did not expect the ending, so I definitely won't spoil it for you. The reason I did not give it a 5 stars is because the book goes at a snail's pace. Truly, it's really slow. I understand it's probably to show how disabled Elena is, but that made the book really less interesting to read. I mean, we follow one day in her life, and that's the whole book. We get a lot of flashbacks, but the day goes really slow. The pacing was a little off. There was a lot of information thrown at us at the end, while the rest of the book is quite nothing is happening. So that's why I got a 4 stars for me. The topic that it discusses is very interesting. I liked it a lot, would really recommend it. I was reading at the same time as Beauty is a Wound, so it was kind of hard-hitting, and I think that added to my frustration about Beauty is a Wound and my choice to DNF that one. So the next 4-star book is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I listened to this book on audiobook, and yeah, I thought that was a great experience. It was really short. It's a really short book. I'm sure you know it's one of the shortest books, and it's a really famous classic. This book is about a woman who lives in a room with yellow wallpaper, and she starts to see things. She starts to get a little delusional, and she gets very paranoid that there is someone living inside this wallpaper, and that person is out to get her. So she tells all the people around her husband, like, I'm so afraid of this woman, I need to get her out of there. But these people around her just don't believe her, and they kind of silence her need for medical attention. She is really misunderstood, and that prevents her from getting the medical attention she needs. This was a really scary book, and I wish it would have been longer. I wish, you know, I want to see how it develops, but I understand that it's so short. This book was really good. I rated it a 4 stars. It's just a nice and short book. Those were all the books in the 4-star tier. So now starting off the 5-star tier with an absolute banger. It's right over here. Nervous Conditions. Wow. I honestly did not expect this book to be so good. It's Nervous Conditions by Tsitsi Danganremga. I'm really sorry about this pronunciation. In this book, we follow Tambudzai, and she's a little girl, and she lives with her family on a farm in Zimbabwe. Then her uncle goes and gets an education from the white colonialists, and he starts to earn a lot of money. Now this family is pretty poor, so this family starts to view this uncle as some sort of god. They all admire him, they respect him. Tambudzai really wants to follow in her uncle's footsteps. She wants to get an education as well, to provide for her family. But this is really hard because she is a girl and she is of color, so she is discriminated against. She questions everything she sees, and I love that about this book. There are a lot of really great questions raised in this book, and they are discussed because the girl questions everything. So the author really gets the opportunity, or creates the opportunity, to discuss every topic that is presented here. This book discusses how an education from a different culture really changes your norms and values, and whether this education is something that we want. In this book, there are multiple people with a great education, but they're viewed very differently because of their gender. And I thought that discussion was great. So as I said, a really interesting book. I just want to read it all over again. It's so good. I'm definitely gonna reread this in a couple of years. The cast of characters is really interesting. Our main character is so amazing, and she undergoes such a transformation that is really interesting to see, and I could not recommend this book enough. This is the first book that goes in the 5-star tier, and I'm really happy that I read it. I read it for the World Tour Book Club for Zimbabwe, and I've seen a lot of people rate this 5 stars as well. I just think it's so good. The next book that I read was We Should All Be Feminist by Adichie. This was a short book as well, and I listened to it on audiobook. It was also narrated by the author, which she did an amazing job, so that was really great to hear. This book talks about what feminism means and how that is different from how it is used nowadays. She talks about this through her experiences and her friends' experiences, in which females have been treated very differently from males. Through those experiences, she discusses the importance of feminism and how important it is to truly know what the meaning is. I thought this was done very well. I think everyone should listen to this book. It's very important, very informative. I thought it was just really short, really great, and I definitely recommend you read this book. That's why I gave it 5 stars. Now, last but definitely not least, this is the best book I've read this year so far. It's The King of S Tier, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Wow, now this book was a journey. It's a very long book. It's about 1200 something pages. It was very long, but it was so suspenseful and fun and interesting, and it was just such a good book. I flew through it. I did take a long time reading it, but every time I read it I was hooked and interested to see what was going to happen. It was just so good. I read this book for the Game of Tomes book club, and it was so fun to read together with everyone. So if you don't know, this book is about Edmond Dantes, and he gets thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. And as soon as he gets out of prison, he forms this plan to take revenge on the 4 men that put him into prison. Yes, it's a long book, I know, but it's so suspenseful and satisfying to see the plot unravel and his revenge take place. And it, at the same time that it's fun, it's also very interesting because it discusses a lot of important topics, such as what is justice and does money make you happy. It discusses a lot of son and father relationships as well. There is also a broad cast of characters which all have their own story. You can see some overlap in the characters, but it's very interesting to follow all of them. I would recommend anyone pick this up. I know it's long, I get it, it's very scary, but it's worth it in my opinion. So this is The King of S Tier, The Count of Monte Cristo. It's definitely 5 stars. As I said, it might be the best book I've read this year. It was so good. It was so fun. Such an amazing book, and I just want to read it all over again, but it's such a long book. I'm really happy that I read it. This would be a book I was very scared of to read, but because we read it for the book club, it was more fun to read it with everyone else. I'm really happy that I read it, and I would definitely recommend you pick it up as well. Now we've ranked all the books that I read recently. As you can see, this is the overview of my tier ranking. We have a lot of books in the 4 and 5 stars, so I'm really happy about that. That means that I've read a lot of books that I really enjoyed this month. There's also a couple books on the lower side, but yeah, most of all, it's been a great reading month. If you like this concept, please let me know. I would love to do this again next month. Let me know which books you've read in the last month, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!